Hey, gang, coming at you here with a topic that can really help you to scale your business, whether it be with us, and an invaluable skill to have if you end up running any business, organization, or charity in the future. And that's the topic of recommendations and networking. And so I'm excited to kind of build off of some of the material that you've hopefully already taken notes on with regards to building and sharing goals with your customers, and really leveraging that as a way to get tons of additional recommendations. And as a reminder, people really give recommendations for two reasons. The first reason they give recommendations is they love your product or service, or or idea. Right. The second reason is they have a connection and a want to really help and further your career along. So with regards specifically to the Cutco business, pretty much every single person that meets one of our representatives or sees the product demonstrated is going to love Cutco, even if they don't get it. So everybody loves that. And so long as you aren't a jerk and you're a professional and you're having fun with the customer, they're going to like you. So then the only other key is just making sure that you ask the right way. And part of asking the right way is asking with confidence and expectancy. Part of it is having yourself organized in such a way where it welcomes people to give you recommendations. Part of asking the right way is being on the script, and part of it is kind of setting it up the right way. So I'm going to share some of those topics with you as we go through this session this morning for Champions Club. So, so here is things that you can do to help make sure that you get recommendations the right way. On the topic of mentality, the expectation should be that every single person recommends you because you have an amazing product and you're going to put your best foot forward to really make sure you're connecting with them. Here's why everybody can give recommendations: because we have a business model that's set up in such a way where you can meet with people face to face, you can meet with people over virtual FaceTime or video chat, which enables people that are new to the area to give recommendations. It enables people that live currently near you to give additional recommendations, and they're free. It costs somebody zero to give you a recommendation, and we really truly incentivize them with a couple of programs. So let's kind of build off of what we've already talked about with goal sharing, and then show you how you can make sure that you're getting 10 to 20 recommendations from every single customer. So so when you start your presentation, a lot of people think that recommendations is something you ask for at the end. However, recommendations are really created at the beginning of the presentation. So I want to share a couple of keys at the beginning part with rapport building that kind of open up the customer's mind to think of recommendations. So when you get to the customer's house, the first thing you want to be doing is looking to really have a couple of thought joggers that you can ask for people that live in their neighborhood. So what that means, if they do live in a neighborhood, be looking for houses on the way to their driveway or on the way to their home that stand out to you. Maybe it's a cool roof, maybe it's a crazy door, maybe it's a cool mailbox, maybe it's a bunch of kids' toys in the yard. Perhaps it's somebody that has a really cool car parked out front of their house or in their driveway. Maybe it's somebody you see kind of walking a dog, right? And that dog is an unusual dog, or maybe a dog that really is lovable, and that strikes you. But be looking for people that you can connect with there. One of the things that I did to take it a step further is I looked for neighborhoods, country clubs, neighborhoods, houses on the way into their neighborhood that stood out to me. So for example, if I was going into one neighborhood, but in the process of getting there, I passed another neighborhood that had amazing homes, I took note of what that neighborhood was called. And I asked people at the end of the presentation if they knew anybody that lived in that neighborhood. So, so when you're going in, have your kind of eyes open for thought joggers just driving right in. And then when you knock on the door and they come to it, just say, hey, you know what, Michelle, I love your neighborhood. Gosh, I was coming in. How long have you guys lived here? Okay, great. Yeah. Do you know who lives here? Do you know who lives there? Yeah, I saw those kids' toys out there. It looks like they like to have a good time. Or, I saw this lady walking her dog. It's a beautiful black lab. Do you know who that is? Or do you know know that lady? And so you're using that as a way to kind of get a couple of thought joggers right off the top, right? As you go into their home, be looking for things that they have proudly displayed. Usually people proudly display things that mean a lot to them. So what that means is if they've got pictures of their kids proudly displayed, right? Talk to them about their kids. If they've got trophies out, talk to them about who the athlete is. If they've got musical equipment proudly displayed, you could talk to them about, hey, who's the musician? So talk to them about things that they care about. If they've got pictures of places they've been, be like, oh, have you ever been there? Oh man, I've heard great things. Or, oh, I've actually been there. It's an awesome place, isn't it? Who'd you go with? And so you're just connecting right there at the beginning. Other great rapport building questions that I like to ask that help people to think of people and have an open mind are things like, so Ms. Jones, how long have you lived in Atlanta? Or what brought you to Atlanta? Especially if they say they haven't lived there their whole life. It's like, oh, cool. What brought you guys down here? Usually they'll say something along the lines of, oh, it was my job, or oh, it was my husband's job. And so as you start talking to them more there, that becomes an in to ask them about that and be like, okay, cool. And did you guys go to school here, or where did you guys go to college? That becomes another thing to talk about. So things that I'm looking for when I'm rapport building are the big 5 areas that people associate with. I ask for, where their family's from. I talk to them about, what they do for work as I'm building rapport. I talk to them about their neighborhood. I talk to them about, where they went to school. And then the other big one that I talk about is their kids. And I spend a lot of time talking to them about their kids. I talk to them a lot about their family and what their kids do for fun, what they do for fun. Because if you can connect with them on those topics, it makes it really easy at the end, if somebody says they're having a hard time thinking of somebody, to suggest those groups of people. So connect at the beginning on the big 5 areas. And so I want to make sure that during that connecting part, the customers love me, so and also that I really am genuinely listening to them, so that if I leave the presentation, I could connect or I could tell somebody that I had never met that individual 3 to 5 interesting things about them, so that they were to go up and meet them, they would know and they could mention it, and the customer would be like, oh wow, clearly you know me, right? So 3 to 5 interesting things as you're building rapport and connecting, specifically talking about, like, again, people they know for the neighborhood, or how long they live in the neighborhood, what they do for work, where their family's from, where their husband, is from, and what they do for work. Talking to them about their, their college experience or their school experience, and then also what their kids do. And really focusing on the kids is a big deal, because their kids, teachers, their kids have coaches, their kids have friends, their kids have people they do extracurriculars with, that they have tons of connections with there. So. All right. So that's at the beginning. So really making sure you're connecting. Then use that 5-step procedure I talked about on goal sharing, with open and close, thanking them, ask them if they've ever heard of Cutco, and then sharing your goals with them. And then making sure that you're using this goal sharing book, right? So have a recommendation binder with goals on the front, and then your automatic sponsorship on the back. And then inside, you want to have all of your recommendations, okay? And have all your recommendation sheets hole punched and put in there. And what you want to do with this, okay, is have them organized where everybody's giving you 10 at the beginning of your notebook. So if somebody gives you 10, they go to the front. If somebody doesn't give you 10, you make sure you kind of hide them in the back, or you merge them with another one, so that it looks like every single person is giving you 10. More on that a little bit later. So you share your goals and you share your recommendation. You kind of show them your recommendation book right at the very beginning. And then you put that off to the side, so that way you're ready to pick it back up whenever you're asking for recommendations. So that happens at the beginning. Okay. Other things that you can do during the presentation to tee up getting additional recommendations is, as you're talking about You're talking about the company history. You can mention Ms. Jones. We're also part of the Better Business Bureau and the Direct Selling Association. So basically what that means is that we don't go door to door and we don't do telemarketing. All of our appointments are actually with customers that have been personally recommended. So one of my goals today is not that I sell you everything in the book, unless that's something that you want. One of my goals is that really you enjoy me and Cutco enough that you introduce me to some friends and family. Okay. And so you're mentioning that during the presentation, so that way recommendations are already top of mind when you get to the end. When you get to the peeler, okay, and you let them use the peeler, here's another key that you can do during the presentation. You just at the end say, Ms. Jones, by the way, I'll show you how at the end of this presentation, you can actually get this for free. And most of my customers end up getting it for free. So I'm excited to tell you about that. Okay, then other things that you can do during the presentation to set it up at the end is when you're going over recommendation or you're going over the guarantee with the customer, you go over the 4 parts of the guarantee. Okay, so when you do the guarantee page of the presentation, okay, during the video or whatever, you pause it, you go over the 4 parts of the guarantee and you say, also, Ms. Jones, I'm going to go ahead and give you my own personal guarantee. Do you happen to have your cell phone with you? Cool. Would you mind grabbing that for me? Okay, great. Well, if you go ahead and grab that out, I'm going to go ahead and share my contact with you just so that way you could save it. Underneath there is Cutco Tray. And that way, if you ever have any questions at all about your Cutco, or if you ever need it serviced or sharpened, I'm going to go ahead and take care of you because I know you're going to love your Cutco. And when I guarantee somebody that, when I give them the guarantee, I also give my own personal guarantee. In fact, even if you decide ultimately you don't like it, I'll go ahead and send it back for you myself. But I've never had anybody had me do that because the product's so great. So you're dropping a little sales plant there, but more importantly, you're having them put you in their phone and it's already sitting out. So that way it makes it really easy at the end for them to give you recommendations. So those are things you can do at the beginning. There's things that you can do in the middle. And then now we're going to get to the important part, which is at the very end. Okay. And so when you get to the end of the presentation, sometimes it feels a little awkward because you've already entered the order. You're kind of still, you haven't cleaned up yet, but you're at that position where now you're trying to figure out, how do I ask recommendations to do it in a professional way where it's not weird and awkward? So here's 3 questions you can ask at the beginning of getting or asking for recs that really set it up. Okay, so here's the first thing. Here's the first question you ask. Ms. Jones, how'd you like my presentation? Did I do a good job? Cool. So that's the first question you ask. Ms. Jones, did you like my presentation? Did I do a good job? Okay, and if you want to kind of compound on that, the second question you can ask is, I wasn't too pushy, was I? Okay. Now, if you were too pushy, don't ask that question. But assuming that you aren't, right, and you're connecting and having a lot of fun, say, Ms. Jones, I wasn't too pushy, was I? And they'll be like, no, you're right. Okay. And Ms. Jones, what do you think of the product? It's pretty cool, right? And so what you're doing there is you're setting it up for why people give recommendations. So those first 3 questions are really just designed to get kind of yeses out of the way, right? So Ms. Jones, did you like my presentation? Do a good job. Okay. They're basically saying they're liking you. Okay. You're asking, I wasn't too pushy, wasn't I? I'm like, no, not at all. And so then that way they're not going to say, oh, people might think it's too much, right? So you're taking that out of there. The third question of, hey, what'd you think of Cutco? It's pretty awesome, right? More often than not, you're like, well, yeah, I bought it. And you're like, yeah, you're going to love it. So now you're giving them the other reason why people give you recommendations, which is that they like the product. And then the fourth question, this is the money phrase, and this is what eliminates a lot of objections for the customer, is you say, Ms. Jones, if somebody had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind taking a quick look at Cutco, if they had the time? So if they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco, if they had the time? And by asking that question sandwiched with if they have the time, it eliminates all of the objections, or except for one, and you're handling that one too, which is somebody's busy. Because if you think about it, if somebody likes the product, somebody likes you, the only reason they might not be able to do a presentation is if they're super busy. So if you just say, if they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco? If they had the time, they're like, no, not if they had the time. Well, now when you go into the recommendation approach, they already are expecting to hook you up. And then when you're asking for recommendations, guys, it's so critical that you do it word for word, okay? Asking it just like it's in the leader's guide, just like it's in the manual. If you get those 8 sentences or 8 or 9 sentences, or whatever, memorized, you're going to get 10 to 20 recommendations on average, okay? So asking it with confidence, asking for the specific number, 10 to 20, instead of just asking for a couple or a few, right? So by asking, all I need you to do is jot down 10 to 20 people who might be nice enough to help me out. So when you're asking with confidence for a specific number, it makes it really easy. And then when you bring up the automatic sponsorship, you hand them the sheet. Say, so when you open up and you're flipping, everybody's giving them 10 to 20. They get to that blank sheet, or you get to that blank sheet. Now the expectation is that everybody gives you 10 to 20. So now it's not a weird thing, it's normal. Okay. And again, nobody wants to be first, nobody wants to be last. So they see that just everybody is doing it for you, then they're going to go ahead and give you 10. Okay. And so then you slide the book with confidence and a pen, let them jot people down, and then and then you let them know, oh, by the way, if you get to 10, you count as a sponsor, and if you get to 20, I can actually count you as a double sponsor. And what's great about being a double sponsor, Ms. Jones, is I'm going to give you that vegetable peeler for free. So by you helping me out, I'm actually going to help you out too. All right. So asking with confidence, putting them in the book with everybody's already given you 10 to 20, you're showing them the sponsorship program and everybody who's already sponsored you. And then you've already set it up in the beginning with a bunch of thought joggers. So then the last section, okay, is as they're writing down, once they get stumped, then you can start throwing out qualifying questions. And you can also start doing what I call thought joggers, right? And thought joggers are things like, Jones, what about people from church? A lot of people just put down, people from church. Or what about some of those neighbors that you mentioned? Or what about some of little Johnny's baseball teammates' parents? Those are awesome people to show Cutco to. Plus, they got to cook because it says they got a kid on the baseball team. Right. So you just start throwing out those thought joggers. Other things that kind of are extra credit for you, or kind of designed to help you take it to another level, is asking for people that live in certain neighborhoods, certain areas of town, have certain professions, right? And so give you an example there. Jones, who do you know that lives in, and name drop 2 or 3, country clubs and or great neighborhoods in your area. Ask for certain towns that you'd like to go to demos in. What I did when I was in college, I used to ask for people that lived in my college town after they gave me all of their regular recommendations as a way to help them get to an additional sponsor. Also, asking for professions. Ms. Jones, who do you know that's a doctor, lawyer, or engineer? If you want to be a dentist, Ms. Jones, anybody that works in the dental industry. Because I'd love to meet with them and talk to them about it. If you want to be a financial planner, because that's a financial planner or an accountant, I'd love to sit down with them and talk to them about what they do, because I may be pursuing that one day. So asking for specific industries, asking for specific areas, and then you can have fun by, just kind of throwing out questions like, Ms. Jones, anybody lives in a castle? Or Ms. Jones, who do you know that loves to cook? Who do you know that cooks all the time? All right. So start throwing out those as a way to add additional people. In a follow-up video or a follow-up lesson, I'm going to actually talk about how to qualify your recommendations and to network into, $1 million homes for your appointment. So, guys, hopefully that was a good taste of ways that you could get yourself up to 10 to 20 recommendations on average. Use those keys to help you accelerate your business and build it to last.